Call now on Government Order of the Day number 3.
Interrupted debate on the first reading of the Building Earthquake-Prone Buildings Amendment Bill.
Members, when the House was last debating this, the Honourable Shane Jones had the call. If he doesn't wish to continue, some other member.
Speaker.
Honourable Phil Heatley.
Mr Speaker, I rise in support of the Building Earthquake-Prone Buildings Amendment Bill. This bill is sponsored by Honourable Maurice Williamson, the Minister of Building Construction, whom we heard from recently. He made it very clear that the purpose of the bill is to introduce a nationally consistent system for managing earthquake-prone buildings that strikes a balance between what he said, protecting people from harm in an earthquake, and managing the costs of strengthening or removing buildings. We all understand that it would be great to have perfect buildings, gold plating, everything structurally sound so that it's 100 times more than what's required, but of course costs do come into play. So what National is ensuring is that earthquake-prone buildings are dealt with in a timely manner by way of a nationally consistent system. Not before time, Mr Speaker. This needs to strike a balance between protecting people from harm and managing the costs, as I said. And also we're ensuring information about earthquake-prone buildings is made available to the public. And that's particularly important as the public have become increasingly conscious due to Christchurch earthquakes and much of the earth movement that we've seen in Wellington and other parts of the country in recent years. They do now ask the question about the earthquake resistance of buildings, and they want the information. So the amendments proposed in this bill require territorial authorities to undertake a seismic capacity assessment of existing non-residential buildings and multi-storey and multi-unit residential buildings in their district within 5 years of commencement. Some parts of the country, of course, this has happened. In many parts of the country, in fact, it's an ongoing process because they are particularly earthquake prone. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate Wellington City Council, for example, who are well on top of their understanding of what it means to be earthquake prone in the city and what's required to meet that challenge. The amendments also provide for a register of information on the seismic capacity of buildings to be held by the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment, and clarify the current threshold for defining an earthquake-prone building, including that it applies to parts of buildings as well as the whole building. And on that note, I would like to state clearly, as the Minister has, what an earthquake-prone building is. And this bill, as is said in the new subpart 6A, is earthquake-prone if, having regard to its condition and to the ground on which it is built, and because of its construction, the building will have its ultimate capacity exceeded in a moderate earthquake, as defined in the regulations, or if the building were to collapse in a moderate earthquake, the collapse would be likely to cause injury or death to persons in the building or to persons on any other property or damage to any other property. And that, of course, should be and, not or. So if those two benchmarks, if you like, are breached, then that is what is considered an earthquake-prone building. And once that's identified, of course, the bill goes on to lead councils in how they should deal with that. So this bill I support because it does clarify the current threshold for defining an earthquake-prone building. It clarifies the level of work required for earthquake-prone buildings is in such that the building, or that part of the building which is earthquake prone, is no longer earthquake prone. Essentially, that is what's required to be done. So in some buildings it might take considerable work to reach that standard. In others it might just be minor alterations. In any case, I'm sure engineers will have their say and be held to account for the decisions that they make. It will require work on existing earthquake prone buildings to be undertaken with a single national time frame. That's within 20 years of the legislation taking effect. Or and assessment by territorial authorities within 5 years and work completed within 15 years of assessment. So the bill takes effect. 5 years, councils have to notify, make sure they're clear and they clarify what is required from owners of earthquake-prone buildings, and that work be completed in 15 years. And it's going to provide for work on priority buildings to be defined in the regulation, and for exemptions from requirements to undertake work for certain buildings. So the bill is wide-ranging, Mr Speaker. It deals with issues that have not been dealt with in the past. I'm pleased that this is happening with the other changes in the Building Act that the Minister has brought forward in recent years. I congratulate him for it, and I look forward to the debate in the House and improvements in Select Committee.
Honourable Ruth Dyson.